India is also in the middle of a lot of health tech. You have a brand, you're wearing it as well, right? We, at least 1% in the country at the moment, or perhaps a lot of people watching this podcast, have one health gadget or the other these days. They have an Apple Watch, or they'll have a ring, or they'll be calculating how much they sleep, how much they walk, how much their stress levels are, good sleep, bad sleep, etc. I want to understand your take on this, because I think there is now developing, having been in this stage, in this health tech fitness stage, post-pandemic for about half a decade now, I feel there's now a fatigue setting in. People are saying this too much tracking is happening, and it's doing not what it's meant to do in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
What's your take on tracking every marker in your body?
Again, so there could be extremes in everything, right? We have a paper from Lancet 2023 where they suggested that wearable devices have a meaningful use in health, and that using trackers can produce clinically significant results. So this is Lancet meta-analysis based on some 200 odd studies, right? So having said this, some people can find the data overwhelming. And so you have to fine-tune that balance. Like, I'm not constantly looking at my ring. I'm not constantly looking at my phone and measuring my levels every hour. That probably is too much. And that's where people go, like, it's like looking at your bank balance every hour, saying how much money I have left. I think it's the same. So just you have to achieve that balance. If you're not looking at your bank balance every few hours or every hour, and you're okay, then I think it's okay to look at your health data, not every hour, but once in a while. The problem happens in both the extremes, when you're too obsessed with the data, and the other extreme is when you don't care about the data at all. If somebody says, I'm sleeping well, how do you know? If you don't know if you're sleeping well or not, how can you fix it? So you have to have some baseline. Some people say, oh, I exercise, oh, I'm good. They've never done a blood test. And suddenly they drop dead. People are like, he looked fit. He was absolutely fine. Right? And then, we come across people who get surprised and shocked the minute they get their blood reports done for the first time. They're like, oh, I thought I was healthy. And when they get their DEXA, and they're like, oh, I didn't know I had so much of visceral fat. Right? And then what happens is, any of these chronic disease, they don't develop in a day. Like, for example, a CVD or a diabetes, or let's say insulin resistance, these are like 5 years, 10 years in the making, unless it's some sort of a genetic predisposition. Even in that case, they get worsened over a period of time, right? So a lot of people can't tell if they're facing any issues until it gets to a point, point of spillover. Like, for example, you keep putting some water in this glass, and you won't know until there's a spillover. So same thing happens in the human body. You will not notice any symptoms for a very long time. And people use that as an excuse to not get their baselines measured.
But talking about tracking,
yeah,
a lot of people in the country do track, but they take these packages that come from any of these companies which say that we'll do your annual checkup, etc. Do you think that also needs an update now? What we've been tracking, your basic blood markers, etc., don't hold anymore.
It depends on how much one is willing to spend. Because a simple HbA1c test could be done, and let's say 100, 200 rupees with delivery, maybe around 300 rupees. They'll collect your blood at home and give you HbA1c. That's such a good standard marker that can reveal so much about your metabolic health. So I'm saying that testing could be done for as less as 100, 200, 300 rupees. But at the same time...
But is that enough? Just doing your HbA1c?
I'm saying, how about let's get HbA1c done for the entire country first? And then maybe we can talk about what else can be tested. Like right now, do we even know how many people are diabetic in the country? We have estimates from 2015, 2016. What about afterwards? We have to have these estimates. And again, estimates couldn't be done with like a single prevalence study in a state, because these are also regional things. Right? So you can't conduct a survey of 200, 300 odd people and ask them, oh, if you are diabetic or not, and then conclude, oh, this is the prevalence. That's not how you assess baseline. Right now, I'm thinking that India might have 100 million diabetics, but again, this is some prevalence data from some 5, 6, 10 years back. We don't have current estimates.
Okay, so if I am conscious about what's happening to my body, if I'm also conscious of my genetic makeup, what are the kind of tests and also wearable devices that I should be looking at? What should I be tracking and what should I be testing?
Right. So every organ in your body that can fail and fails easily should be tracked. Like, for example, I would love to do extensive testing for heart because heart is really vulnerable. I wouldn't worry too much about liver unless until I have lifestyle issues or let's say a problem like hepatitis B or C or A, right? I wouldn't worry too much about let's say my skin or hair or nail because these are secondary organs, right? Which do not, like your body does not depend on them for survival. Like you can still survive, right? I wouldn't worry too much about let's say my muscle mass unless until you're in a country like India. So depending on where you're staying, like for example, if you're staying in a place like Delhi, I would put more stress on testing my lungs and my heart.
Oops.
Yes. Versus, let's say, if I was living in South Indian states where I'd actually focus more on testing my muscle mass. Because the prevalence of insulin resistance, obesity is far more down south compared to the north, I guess. So depending on the region, depending on the place, but in general, I would say everybody should get extensive profiling done for their heart because that's the one thing that can quickly take you away.
Right.
Yeah.
And is there a way, do you have like a checklist of things that you should do in your 30s, in your 20s?
Sure.
Is there one that you can tell us?
Yeah, so you can get your vitamins and minerals. You could get your liver profile, which is LFT. Then you have kidney function tests. There's this KFT, vitamin D levels. Again, good to have a baseline because Indians typically are deficient in vitamin D. Calcium, iron, zinc, magnesium for women. Then you have your thyroid test, especially important for women, hormone test for both men and women. Then you can check your spirometry test, which is primarily for lungs. Nobody does it, but it's important. Then you can get your DEXA once in a life at least, especially after the age of 30 to assess your baseline. Then if you can get a VO2 max test done. And then a lot of tests for your heart. So in your heart, you have lipid profile, you have your ApoE-B, then ApoA, A-B, then LPA, which is again also determined by your genetic marker. And then you have CAC, then you have, I wouldn't say MRI-CT, but it's good to do.
That sounds like a very exhaustive list.
I mean, look,
I don't think that's practical.
When you send a car to a service center, they check each and everything in your car and then they provide a certificate that's okay, this is fine. So we do it for our cars. We have to do it for the bodies. We have to do it. And think not as an individual owner of the car. Of course, you don't give a shit about your car except for washing it, cleaning it from outside, but you do drive it, right? And when you get a little bit of scratch and this and that, you do send it for a repair and maintenance. But when you send the car for a regular service, the regular service means that they'll check each and every part of the body and then they'll certify the car is fit for driving or if something's wrong with the engine.
VO2 max is a buzzword. I'm seeing it all across my Instagram. In fact, on the issue of longevity, VO2 max is said to be one of those markers that actually tell you how long you're going to live. Explain what is VO2 max.
So VO2 max is basically your maximal oxygen uptake during high intensity training. People respond to stress much better when their VO2 max is higher. Two people with, let's say, one having a much better VO2 max, let's say something above their 40s and 50s versus somebody in their 20s and 30s, the chances of this person dying of a heart attack is way more compared to this person. Right. So basically, VO2 max is one of the. It's a good proxy for longevity. It's not so the way all of these markers are derived. For example, grip strength, VO2 max, lean mass. The way they derive these markers is that they have user data of hundreds of thousands of users, and what they do is they find out. So this is all done retrospectively. not prospectively. So in retrospect, they find out, okay, this user lived till the age of 90. Find out what was a common thing amongst all these users who lived till 90. And they're like, oh, all of these guys had like really good VO2 max, right? So that's how they say. So these are proxies. So it's basically we observe a common theme amongst people who lived longer, and they found out that VO2 max single-handedly was one of the most common denominator amongst all the people who lived longer.
Yeah, but okay, give me your longevity markers. What would you track to know not just lifespan, but health span of a person?
Yeah, I mean, VO2 max is definitely there. Then your lean mass. Yeah, then your resting heart rate. These three are like pretty good.
Grip strength also, you said.
It's a proxy for strength. So again, because they cannot measure the strength or lean mass, so they use a small device which you can like grip. So that gives you some indication of how strong a person is, but it's a proxy.
Just proxy an indication, you mean?
It's an indication for overall strength.
Okay.
So if you don't have to do grip strength, you can actually do your deadlift and see if you can comfortably lift, 1x of your body weight. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We spoke about markers, but on devices.
Yeah.
I want to know. I think we are tracking too much. And there are those who are afraid of tracking. Yeah. And then the other side of the spectrum is who are just obsessed with tracking. Yeah. What is the balance then between the two sides?
Like I said, tracking does not need to become obsessive. I mean, look, first people need to understand that none of these devices actually calculate stuff. None of these devices, the Apple Watch, the heart ring, or any of the devices, they don't calculate stuff. They estimate stuff.
Meaning?
Meaning, like a medical device is a pretty extensive setup. For example, if I have to do my sleep assessment in the lab, there's going to be a PhD device, polysomnography, which will have like different leads, which I'll have to attach here in my nose and my mouth. It's a big equipment. Similarly, if I have to calculate, let's say heart rate is pretty easy to calculate. You can use that. But again, those devices are also approximating. They are not calculating. Calculation is when you have deterministic physical characteristics and you use physical formulas to estimate something, right? In this case, what happens is you use something called as a regression. So all of these devices, they don't calculate, they estimate. So the main purpose of these devices is not to give you accurate values, but trends. So for someone who's looking at accuracy is doing the biggest mistake by not looking at trends and trying to look at the data, and somebody's like, oh, I walked 10,000 steps and this device is showing me 10,050. See, that's the problem. Those are the kind of people who you can say these are obsessed. When you're looking at trends, the trends give you an indication, okay, if your health is getting better or worse. Like, for example, I'm not going to fuss about if I've slept 6 hours, 15 minutes today or 6 hours, 30 minutes tomorrow. But I will see the average, how much I have slept this month. And if my average is okay and it's touching 7.5 hours or 8 hours, I'd say, okay, my health in general is getting better, right? So you look at the trends and basis those trends, you make a decision.